Cybersecurity, world-class CISOs recognize that cybersecurity must be customized for the organization. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome to one of my favorite times of the week, and I hope it's your favorite time, where we get to talk about being a world-class CISO. So welcome to my podcast, Life of a CISO, with yours truly, Dr. Eric Cole, where we get to go in and spend some time talking about what it means to be world-class. Now, what I want to start off today is a little bit of an interesting question or topic. And hopefully if you've joined us before, you never know where I'm going to go with our podcast, but it's all focused on one area, and that's of course world class. So my question to you is this: what is your superpower? What is your special ability that makes you unique from everybody else? And let's just step back for a second. If you're world class, which you are, you're a superhero. Now, I don't care which superheroes you follow, right? There's so many now. When I grew up, they were pretty simple, right? You had your basic superheroes. Now there's so many, I think, from Marvel that come out with new ones like every week or every month, which is super cool. And what I love about what they're doing is where there's so many superheroes is because of this. Every one of us is a superhero because every one of us has a superpower that makes us unique and different. Now, here's the question. You are born with your superpower. You don't have to create it. You don't have to go in and find it. You just have to remember what it is. Because I can almost guarantee there's been some point in your life, whether it was when you were young, whether it was when you're in college, or some point in your life where that superpower came out, and then for whatever reason, you forgot about it. You forgot what it was. I know with one of my friends, he didn't remember his superpower until he was 46. And his superpower is comedy, to make people laugh. When he was young, he would always, like 4 or 5 years old, he would tell me that he would always make people laugh, and he always told jokes, and people were always cracking up, and he just brought so much joy and happiness. And then for whatever reason, he forgot about it. He became a very well established entrepreneur in the finance side, ended up selling his company, doing very, very well. And then at some point, he remembered his superpower. And guess what he's doing now? Stand-up comedy. And he's awesome, right? He's doing an amazing job. So the point is, you just need to spend some time and remember what your superpower is, because we all have one. Now, here's the unfortunate part. Some people go to the grave and leave this planet never, ever using or remembering their superpower. It's basically dormant most of their life. Like I said, I've never found anyone where when they really go back and remember, there weren't moments in their life where that superpower came out. My superpower is able to take very, very complex topics and explain them in a way that's interesting, exciting, and easy for people to understand. right? It's sort of in that category of teaching, but it's to me a little more unique. Notice it's a little more narrow. That superpower is being able to take very complex topics and not only explain them so people can understand it, but make it interesting and exciting. And a great example of this is my mother-in-law. She had to take a test when I was back dating my wife, and there was a math section on it. And I was 15 or 16 at the time, and she was struggling with the math. It was like a development test she had to take to get a promotion at her job, and it had an English section. It was basically, I guess, a basic level of like an SAT. And she failed the math section twice. And I was just over the house and sort of overheard, but sort of was involved in a discussion where she was like, I'm going to have to get another job. Because if I can't, I have to pass this. She says, I have 3 times, I failed it twice, so I have 1 more time. And if I don't pass it, I'm not going to be able to stay at the current job. And as imagine, switching jobs and all that is stressful. So I said, will you give me 15 minutes a day for 10 days? So I'm asking for a little over 2 hours, 150 minutes. And she looked at me like I was a little crazy. I said, we could probably even do it sooner, but will you give that to me? And we actually did. We had 3 15-minute sessions where I sat down and explained the math. Now remember, she's gone through tutors. She's spent 20 hours going through trying to learn the math and couldn't. I spent 3 15-minute sections with her and she aced the section. She was smart and brilliant, but no one ever explained it in a way that was easy for her to understand. And that's when I look back, and it might have been even earlier, but that's one of the first times I remember my superpower, where I'm able to take those complex things, understand how people learn, and basically teach it in a way that makes it easy, fun for them to comprehend it. So we all have superpowers. And the reason I bring this up is world-class CISOs do a lot of things. But what makes them world-class is when they really are able to tap in to that superpower. So I do a lot now with helping CISOs. If you notice, most of the lines of business that I'm doing right now, that coincidentally I enjoy the most, because when you're using your superpower, you're in your zone and you love it, are coaching, presenting to boards of directors, and expert witness work. Now think about all 3 of those. When I'm coaching, I'm essentially helping you understand what your superpower is and display it in a way that makes it easy for you to remember and utilize that superpower, which is essentially utilizing my superpower. When I brief board of directors, I'm briefing very, very successful business folks, typically on the finance and investment side, that have no or minimal technical backgrounds. They don't understand cybersecurity. And in 45 minutes, I can explain it in a way that they can implement it and make effective decisions to use cybersecurity as a business enabler. Expert witness. I present in front of a judge and a jury. Judges typically, depending on when they were appointed, but most judges are usually 50 plus and very brilliant on the law and very brilliant on legal, but don't necessarily have a strong technical background. And I have to explain cyber in a way that they can understand. The same thing with a jury. A jury is a jury of your peers. So there could be folks from all walks of life, different ages, different backgrounds, different degrees, different technology. Most of them, once again, do not have strong computer science or cybersecurity backgrounds. So once again, I have to be able to take these very, very complex systems when you're talking about patent infringement right? These very complex patterns and technology, and essentially distill them down in a way that they can understand it and make an appropriate decision within that case. So what you'll find is that if you really understand what your superpower is, that's where you can actually go in and go to that next level of being a world-class CISO. Because here's the other cool part. When you tap into your superpower, it's not only something that you love to do, that you do better than most people, but it's easy for you. But notice that second thing. Your superpower typically is something that differentiates you from others. So if you're now tapping into that superpower that makes you unique or different than others, that's going to allow you to excel within your given field. That's going to allow you to essentially pull away from the pack and differentiate yourself as that world-class CISO. Now, all world-class CISOs are going to be able to communicate. They're going to be able to write. They're going to be able to analyze risks. They're going to be able to translate, right? Those are core skills that everyone has. But what is that unique thing that makes you different than everyone else, that not only makes you different, but gives you enjoyment and that you just love to do? So I just urge you, spend a little time remembering your superpower. Now, the question I always get is, Eric, how do I do that? So a couple of things. What do you really love to do? What do you really enjoy to do? What are the things that if you had a couple of hours of free time that you would go in and do? Now, you might have to drill down a little bit. Like I had a friend of mine going, well, Eric, if I had 4 or 5 hours of free time, I would play golf. I would say, okay. And I don't think, now maybe it is, but just knowing him and I played with him, I wouldn't say playing golf was a superpower. Between you and me, he tends to cheat a little bit, right? But so and that's not a superpower, right? It's got to be ethical and moral, right? So we're going there. But I drilled down with him a little bit. I was like, okay, why do you like to play golf? And he's like, oh, well, I like to be outside. I'm like, okay, great. So do you play golf by yourself? Oh, no, I always play with other folks. And I said, okay. And do you always play with the same group? And he goes, no, Eric, you know what I really enjoy? I enjoy just showing up to the club on a busy weekend, like in the summer or a holiday weekend or something like that, and just joining. Because when you play golf, there's 4, and 3 of them are a threesome, and joining one of those so I could be the 4th person. And I said, okay, great. Why do you enjoy that? He goes, because I love meeting new people. I love finding out about new people. And I'm like, well, why do you like doing that? And he's like, because I love having a database of people that I know so I can connect different individuals and different folks. He goes, so almost always when I go in and join a new group, I become friends with 2 or 3 of those folks that I never knew before. And then I either introduce them to other people or help them find. And now you're seeing where the superpower is. He's a connector. The superpower is, if he could do anything, it's to connect people together. He knows everybody. And he can connect anyone. If I have a problem or an issue, I call him up and he's like, oh yeah, you got it. And he does it. So his superpower is he's a connector. But the interesting thing is, while he naturally would gravitate towards that, and that's what he would naturally do, he never connected the dots. He always thought he just liked playing golf. And his family thought he just loved playing golf. And they would get mad at him because he would always play golf. But it's not golf. It was his ability to connect that was driving the need for golf because of his superpower. So just think about, what is it that you really love doing? It's a Saturday morning. What time is it? 1 o'clock, so I guess afternoon. This is the first Saturday I haven't worked. It's been a very busy several months, And I've been doing presentations, travel, depot preps, and reports and stuff on the weekend. So this is the first weekend in a long, long time I don't have any actual, what I call high priority commitments that have to be done. It's a beautiful day outside. I have a wonderful convertible, and I'm in the studio at 1 p.m. recording a video. Why? Because it gives me strength and power. I'm not going to get into a lot of the details, but I wasn't planning on it. I was planning on actually tomorrow morning, but I had a little bit of a rough morning. Some things happened, and a little bit of just a little frustration. I mean, just not in the great state that I wanted. So I love doing this. So I come in the studio and I'll tell you what, thank you, thank you, thank you. Today was a little bit of a selfish video. We're not even done yet, right? We're still cranking because I need it as much as you. We're about halfway through and I am just super energized and super pumped. I am just ready to go. So thank you for letting me utilize my superpower. So do some research. You'll remember, if you give yourself time and just don't force it. If you force it, it won't happen. Just remember. Then the other thing is ask friends and family members. Ask them, hey, when you think of me, what are some of the positive traits that come up? What do you think of? What are the things that I do better than others? What are the things that when I'm really happy that you see me doing? What do you think of me in terms of how I impact people and what my mission is? Now notice, most of the time when you ask people for feedback, I don't know why, but society has trained us. You always ask for negative. You always ask for negative feedback. Like typically if you go to coworkers or your boss or family members, you typically say, how can I improve? When you're an employee at a company and you get your yearly review, they typically spend a lot more time on looking at your weaknesses instead of looking at your superpowers. So what I want you to do is you're not asking anything negative. You're just asking them to help you see what you might be missing. What are the things that you observe about me that make me different and unique and that really help me align with my mission? And if you spend a little time, you think back, you remember, and you ask coworkers and friends and family members, you'll very quickly see your superpower. And the reason why you want to remember it and know it, because then you can keep using it more and more because it's a superpower. So if you get ahead, I was working with a CISO that was basically stuck at, and I say stuck loosely, so I'm not trying to put you down, but I'm very big on abundance and prosperity. And was making $500K a year. Nothing wrong with that. If that's your goal, awesome. I know people, their goal, because they have lots of other things they want to do, is make $500K a year, and that's great. But this individual was making $500K for the last 10 years, really minimal to no increase, and wanted to make $2 million a year. Was trying to do that, like I said, for many, many, many years, and in their words, was stuck at that area. So we spent some time figuring out what their superpower was. And once we did and helped align, so now the type of work that they did and how they spent most of their time was utilizing and focusing on that superpower. And in less than 9 months, they made over $1 million. And within 15 months, they made their goal of over $2 million. And they keep going, right? They're just accelerating now because they tapped in to that superpower. Now, once again, I only use money because it's a measurable component, but I could also give cases and situations where people were frustrated, were unhappy, were miserable, sort of lost their focus in life, and it had nothing to do financially. And they were on all sorts of different prescription medicines because they were diagnosed with depression and all these other factors. And once we found their superpower and allowed them to tap into it, everything changes. Everything changes for them. And overnight, literally overnight, they're a different person. Focused, happy, energized. Because now you're focusing in on what you really love to do. And one little caveat, and then I'm going to get into a little of the cybersecurity side because I always like doing a little bit in each of our podcasts. But one little warning. As a parent, most of us, either our parents, we have our aunts or uncles, or we're going to have kids someday. One thing I really urge you, make sure you foster and encourage your kid's superpower. Because if we go back to my friend that at 46 became a comedian, the reason he stopped is because his parents, one of his parents, kept telling him, stop being a goofball. Goofballs are never successful in life. You need to be serious and focused if you want to get ahead. And literally, that changed his trajectory for the short term of, instead of liberal arts and comedy, which is where he was going, he basically switched to finance. Now, he jokes he's worth a significant amount of money because he built and sold the company. So he's like, yeah, I'm not upset with my parents. And now he is tapping into the superpower. And the thing that's interesting is when he really looks back over his career in finance and the company he built, he says what really allowed him to grow that company and differentiate from the competition was his ability to connect with people through humor. He goes, he would always, if people either got in trouble with the IRS or debt or things like that, which is a stressful time in life, he would always be able to put just the right amount of humor to defuse the situation so they could focus on solving the problem and issue. So it wasn't his primary focus, but it was always there, right? It was always there. But just as parents, we sometimes believe we're doing a good job and trying to get our kids go on the same path that everyone else does. But sometimes by doing that, we can inadvertently be crushing or temporarily making them forget what their superpower is. So just keep an open mind as a parent, aunt, uncle, right, with kids. Let them be unique and different. And if you see something that, even if it's quirky or weird or strange, that differentiates them and that they love to do, even if it's different and weird, encourage it and foster it. Because the more we can get younger kids to tap into their superpower, the more successful they're going to be. So I'll just sort of leave it there, but find, figure out, remember what your superpower is. It's in there. And like I said, I've never, ever, ever met anybody where it hasn't shown up in different parts of their lives. They've just suppressed it and haven't realized it. Because world class, the top of the world class are superheroes, and all superheroes tap in, utilize, and effectively give their superpower to the world. Now, the next thing I want to cover in our podcast is cybersecurity. World-class CISOs recognize that cybersecurity must be customized for the organization. I've been doing a lot of research in this over the last 6 months and just want to share some of it with you today. But what I'm finding is the reason why CISOs are struggling in an organization is not usually what they'll tell you. When I do coaching and I work with CISOs, most CISOs will say the reason why I'm struggling or the reason why they left the company is the executives don't get it. They don't get security. They don't understand it. Or in a recent case, Eric, all they want to do is put up roadblocks, not let me do my job. I wish they would just let me do my job. And we come up with these excuses that are really masking the real issue. But I would argue in every one of those cases, isn't the real issue that you haven't customized it in a way that it fits within the organization? Isn't executives fighting or putting up roadblocks because what you're proposing doesn't align with the organization, doesn't necessarily fit within the organization? And I'll give a simple example. One of the main reasons why servers get broken into is because they're accessible from the internet and they're missing patches and they contain critical data that's not properly encrypted. So if you heard any of my different podcasts or other teachings, I sort of have our core rules. Rule number 1, any server visible from the internet must be fully patched. 2, any server visible from the internet must never contain critical data. Now, while those rules seem simple, they're pretty much generic rules. Our job as being a world-class CISO is how do you create a customized solution to implement those rules within the organization? Because a lot of folks are going to go in to an existing organization that has 30 servers accessible from the internet. Some of them are missing patches because the software can't run with the patches, and some of them do contain critical data. Now imagine if you just go in and do the cookie cutter approach, and you go into that organization that's been running this way for 5+ years. They're making $700 million, and this is their e-commerce system. And you basically come in and say, burn it to the ground. Because that's really what you're saying. If you go in and say, listen, these 30 servers are all wrong. We have to fully patch them, and I don't care the reason. Every one of them must be fully up to date, which right there will crash the application because it can't run with some of the patches. We must take 9 of the servers that have data, pull it off, put it inside, not allow that. So basically, what we're saying is we have to stop generating $700 million with our e-commerce solution, spend 9 to 12 months, $5 million rebuilding it from scratch, and then in a year or so when it's ready, we can then relaunch it, and then we have to get back all of our customers, all of our... Now I know I'm taking it to an extreme level, but that's the extreme level of why you're getting so much resistance in the executive ranks, of why you're getting so much resistance. In our minds, as CISOs, we're saying we just need to secure the organization. We just need to patch all the servers, and we need to remove any critical data from external servers. That seems simple to us. Right? That's pretty basic. 2 simple rules. Dr. Cole says it all the time. But we don't go the level deeper to recognize what that really means. To really do that in the organization, you would have to do what I just said. Basically, lose $700 million for over a year and start from scratch. Of course, you're going to get pushback. Of course, you're going to get people saying, no, because that's not going to work. This is the difference. And this is where people struggle the most. Great teaching moment here. This is the difference between world-class security engineers and world-class CISOs. World-class security engineers identify problems and give a generic solution to fix it. World-class CISOs create customized solutions that fit within the organization. Let me say that again because it's powerful. World-class security engineers identify the problems with a generic approach to fix it, and it's your problem to fix it. World-class CISOs create creative solutions where it's their problem to fix it. What if that same organization, and I've done this many times so I know it works, what if in that same organization you went in and instead of getting all the pushback, what if you actually worked with the business leads to create a customized solution? What if you showed them, okay, I know these issues have been here for 5 years. We're making $700 million. We can't burn this to the ground. But right now, the number one threat that we have is we have data that's exposed. So what if we went in and just utilized the existing database that we have, but instead of generating a single key, what if we just went in and generated multiple keys? Once again, pretty simple and easy to do. And we put that in place. And then what if we come back and say, okay, I know we don't have centralized patch management because it breaks applications, but what if we, and I say we as CISO security, identify what the top threats are, we test them in development, so you're not doing any work, and if we go in and show you that they don't negatively impact the system, then we apply those patches. So notice to customize. It's not all or nothing. They're saying we can't apply patches because it breaks the system. We're saying apply every patch, break the system, and lose $700 million. But world-class CISOs go right down the middle. They come up with a unique, creative solution that says, what if we identify the patches that are tied to the biggest threats? Most likely those do not break the system, and then we go in and we install those on that system. So being a world-class CISO is all about working with the different business units, working with the executives at a business level to truly understand the problem in a way that you can create unique, customized solutions for the organization. And then when you do that, everything changes. I'll tell you right now, I've never seen a situation where somebody creates a unique, customized solution that actually improves the system, improves performance, and they get roadblocks. Never seen it. Now, you always can put comments, right? So if I'm wrong, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to find out details. I've been doing this a long, long time. And I'll tell you, every time we get the negative feedback of roadblocks or frustration or they won't let me do it, it's always because they're viewing security as impeding the business. And the number one reason why they view it that way is because the CISO is recommending a generic cookie cutter approach. So if you want to be world-class, you want to be a world-class CISO, customization and understanding the business is the key. So this one, we've given you some homework. So first, make sure you spend some time figuring out your superpower. Trust me. And this is something you could do with your family. What if you did a month-long discovery with your family where every member of your family discovers their superpower? How cool would that be? Where by the end of the month, you're all wearing capes, right? And then remember, world-class CISOs are about customization. If you want to be world-class, don't identify problems, identify customized solutions, and everything will change. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Life of a CISO, and I'll see you next week.